Hey guys, we're back again with the Couch Confessions. I'm Jordan Flaherty, and today we'll be talking about my single Pink Sands off my latest album called Truth is Naked. Pink Sands had a couple of different forms of inspiration, one being classic rock, first and foremost. It's something that's kind of become my primary genre when it comes to listening. A lot of it on Spotify, some vinyl records here and there. But a person I had in mind specifically too was David Bowie and his single Moon Age Daydream. I wanted to really emulate that spaciness, that kind of atmosphere, and that theme exactly, and have some of the guitars and stuff like that in there. And I threw in some piano too, similar to the way he did. But yeah, definitely classic rock as a whole, but David Bowie for sure, who I give a shout out to in the lyrics, but I'll get to that in a bit. The song starts out with a kind of like rap portion, very down tempo type thing with just piano and this kind of outside. I think of it as like outside at twilight sound in the woods or meadow with crickets or something like that. And you do hear audible crickets in the sample, but it's just that and piano, acoustic piano. And I start out by saying, I know it's all dark, starless skies, and the strife of life gets hard, but meet me under the traffic light on the corner of the boulevard. Your face will shine all red, you'll see mine turn green. Yellow stars glow overhead, though gray clouds are in between. And I was really proud of those lines. Like I said, I'd written them like 3 years ago or something like that. I had this song in my back pocket for a while. It just didn't fit on any of my projects just yet. And I got to a point where I developed this portion that kind of, on the Truth is Naked album, that kind of had like some fantasy elements. And then there's a section where it goes Pink Sands, Red Lights, and Blue and Green, my three songs right in a row. And I kind of call that like the color suite for that album. But Pink Sands fit its way, on the beginning of that portion. And again, I'm very proud of those intro lines. It's kind of like, I like doing these like little intro raps to lead into the beat drop. And I thought those are so cool. Just like setting up the scene and the fantasy of, meet me here. We're going to go to Mars. I don't know how we're getting there, but we're going to do it. And, just on our normal street corner on Earth here. And then take it from there. And it kind of sets up the fantastic scene that we'll be discussing moving forward. Then the beat does drop after this kind of bare bones piano portion with the rap, and it goes into it's an ensemble at first for the first verse of electric piano, a bass groove, and acoustic guitar. Kind of just setting up. I really wanted to set that classic rock feel and tone and vibe, so you know what you're getting into. And just in the beginning, the first verse, I'm really just laying out, Earth is tough sometimes. I'm sure there are worse places to be, but it's wrought with sadness. People are mad sometimes in mass, and let's get away from this. We don't need any machinery. Let's just, spread our wings. Really what I'm kind of thinking is like your imagination. Let's get out of here. Let's escape. Let's go to this other planet. And some of these lyrics I was thinking of in lieu of the very real possibility that we can populate Mars someday in the distant future. It's a scary thought, but I'm kind of thinking of this scene as, okay, this is a possibility now. Let's get there before everybody else. And I kind of turn it into like a romance on the chorus too. But just saying that, let's get off Earth, let's go to Mars together, just you and I. And I allude to us, being, shooting stars, leaving the atmosphere. And we're headed to Mars now, and you kind of hear that at the end of each verse, da da to Mars. And I liked how I strung that together. I don't do that with songs often, but it is a nice thing to do as far as memorability for your songwriting, to string together a trope or a theme throughout the verses or choruses that changes slightly, but is similar, melodically and also lyrically. And that again, was really fun. I kind of did it on accident. It was just writing simple lyrics, going with it. And another thing on the lyrics with this song, again, started it like 3 years ago. I had a phone. I write a lot in my phone, the notes on my phone, and had an old phone that eventually died. The screen just died on it, so I couldn't get in anymore. And I unfortunately lost the old lyrics to that song. Who knows? It could have been slightly different, could have been way different. But I remembered that intro portion and the chorus, and I went with that, and then I kind of worked around the rest with the theme and ended up finishing it. Um, but yeah, once we, establish where we're going to Mars, I hit the chorus, and the chorus, as far as the sounds involved, it's a big acoustic piano, big electric guitars that hit at the same time. They had this real power and shift from the kind of more chill verse vibe, and there's a bass sound too, of course. And what I added was kind of layers of vocals, not harmonies per se, but more like a bottom line and a top line, just kind of a two-part thing on the vocals, which are "I Want to Show You the Pink Sands Lover," "I Know It's Not Your Favorite Color," "I'll Be a One-Man Band, Play Songs for You, Sing Songs for You on the Pink Sand." Just kind of making it more of a blasé idea of, we're going to Mars. This is going to take years to get there. I don't talk about that, but once we get there, I know it's not your favorite color, may not be your favorite place, but I'm going to play you some music like I always would, and we're going to have fun while we're there, even though things have gotten dire. And it is a fantastical song, but of course, in a lot of my music, I think of my fiance first as the inspiration, and hopefully I want listeners to hear this and think of their special someone and getting away. The idea is I'm going away with my fiance to get there first, but, I want everybody to feel like that too. Then in the second verse of the song, the chords, mind you, for the verses and the chorus are all the same. It's a very popular, it's a play on it, but it's a very popular blues progression in the rock and roll world, especially classic rock. And I just morphed that to make it sound like a more soft rock, kind of maybe like an Elton John type vibe, piano rock song with some guitars, decorating the outs and ins of the chord progression. But yeah, progression very easy, kind of similar throughout the entire song. It only changes on the guitar solos, which I'll get into. And anyway, the way this changes a little bit sonically in the second verse is I add this soundscape sound, kind of like a real atmospheric environmental thing that doesn't necessarily have notes per se, but when you build a chord, it adds like a real kind of just, like I said, atmosphere to the background of your song. You push it back a little and adds what I wanted was a spacey feel. I keep the electric piano, or no, I wait on the electric piano actually on the second verse. What I use is the acoustic guitars, the soundscape sound, and the bass only. And I like that slight switch up. You barely notice it because there is still a chord there from an electronic instrument, but it still drives the same way. And I actually paused the drums for this kind of short, quick rap portion, commenting on climate change a little bit, kind of saying like, let's put all that aside. Maybe it's so far gone at this point in the narrator's time. But forget the chemtrails, sporadic hail, and CO2 emissions. Please, won't you listen? This is my act of contrition. And I just go on to say, kind of a real life thing. My fiance has really opened the world to me, both in the sense of travel, but also in the sense of culture. She's exposed me to 2 other cultures that I wasn't familiar with. And now I feel way more immersed in those now, being her fiance and, marrying into her family. And I kind of say at this point, again, we've seen it all. Now we must leave. I say the years are longer here. We're entering the atmosphere now. We traveled so far. We finally traveled this long distance to get to Mars. The years are longer here because it takes longer, to revolve. And we're entering the atmosphere now. Just two shooting stars landing on Mars. Yeah, that's what it was. Just 2 shooting stars in this verse. In the first verse, it's flying by all the stars. So again, playing on that little trope at the end of the verses. Again, going to the same chorus, and it's pretty similar. What I incorporate into the later choruses is kind of just some more movement on the acoustic piano, just a very rock beat. Ding, 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 ding. Just a little rock and roll, and then to go along with those drums, and then some staccato at the very end, just to mix it up a little bit, add another couple chords in there, make it a little groovy. Right after that second chorus, I go into a guitar solo, which I was very happy. Everything on this album I wrote, produced, performed myself, including this guitar solo, and I say it in every video. where there's guitar involved, but I'm no guitar player by any means, though I was very happy with this guitar tone, the color and timbre on it. I think my engineer Melvin Durrell and I, we got that down exactly the way I wanted, a very classic rock guitar, something, you think comes from like the 70s, again alluding to David Bowie's type of era. And what I did behind it was sustain the bass sound but just spread it out and had more bass movement in the left hand on the piano, the acoustic piano, going out of the chorus. I think it worked very well. And I changed the chord progression slightly just to make it 3 chords. And yeah, I love how the guitar solo turned out. It feels good for me every time. It gives me goosebumps, and it's a weird thing to say about your own writing, but it's exactly what I wanted to do. It took me like a million takes. It always does for guitar stuff, but I love how it turned out. Then I go into the third and final verse, talk about how kind of a flashback to the third song on the Truth Is Naked album. The fourth song, sorry, it's called Right Through Heaven, and talking about how my fiance, loves stargazing and stare at the moon. I say, I know you love our moon, but Mars has too. And just talking about how, things are way different here in the third verse. We're finally here, we're hanging out. Life won't be so hard once we drink here on Mars. And what I originally wanted to say was, life won't be so hard once we find a drink here on... And my engineer, he kind of said, it's a little wordy, like cut it down. I said, once we drink here on Mars. It's like you get there and there's a bar up there or something. Again, just thinking fantasy. I thought it was a cool play on what I was trying to do, along with, we're up here, please don't panic, we're just jamming. It's like there's music, there's live music there, it's me, and then why not have some, beer or whatever would be there. It's a cool thing to think about. Right after the third verse, I go into... which the third verse kind of combines all the elements of what I mentioned previously in the verses. That soundscape is added in there very lightly, but now you have the electric piano, acoustic guitar, and the bass all at once with that soundscape in the background. It dies down a little going right from the third verse to the bridge. And in the beginning, I added this very late, like right before the song was mastered. And I say, on Dimus, on Phobos. And my fiance makes fun of me. She says, why do you sound like Santa there? What are you talking about? She'll make fun of me saying, on Dancer, on Prancer. But what I'm alluding to is kind of Mars, the Roman god, just him talking to his sons, they would be. And these are the names of the 2 moons, which I mentioned just before those lines. These are the 2 moons of Mars. Earth has 1, Mars has 2, and they're called Dimus and Phobos, not just moon. So that's why I threw that in there, just kind of like, mimicking the sound of the gods, we're up in space. But, and then I kind of had this very simple bass and acoustic guitar bit going through the bridge. I have a kind of humming along, and then I say, he doesn't even know me, but we'll meet up with David Bowie. Again, finally giving him that shout out. I tend to do that in music, and I like to just pay homage to my my idols and my predecessors. Then finally, and this is something I had a little insider with my friend Ricky for a while, you get that final and drop on the final chorus. And I always wanted to do that in the song. I always did that when I was songwriting, messing around in my old apartment with my friend. I'd just go boom, and that was going to be the lead up and the hit from verse to chorus in one of my songs. I finally did it. You get this final chorus, and I add more layers to the vocals. It sounds very big. And then, finally, kind of a short guitar solo, again, reminiscent of the first one, that goes into this outro. And I keep the guitar going with just a simple pluck of 1 note, an E note. Keep that going, add this atmospheric sample back. And then I go into these lines saying, it was cool. It was a cool fantasy. But now we got to go back on home. I say, untangle the dark matter from your hair. I love that line. I think that was a cool addition. I think I wrote that whole bit around that line. And then it just kind of smooths out. And I say, again, going with the trope, luckily we haven't gone too far. Turn around, we're leaving Mars. We're leaving, physically in terms of the narrator, but also, emotionally in terms of the fantasy. And then I love how the song just smoothed out, kind of ending where we started. But thank you once again, guys, for tuning in. This has been the Couch Confessions on my song Pink Sands. We got 1 more of these left about Love in the Rain, so we'll see you then. Thanks, guys.